The 2025 NCAA tournament resumed last night. We had games in Newark, just across the river here. Also had games out in San Francisco. The last game of the night was Arkansas and Texas Tech. And Bennett, I thought your Razorbacks had it in the bag. They were up 16 points on Texas Tech, a shorthanded Texas Tech team. And then they squandered it, found themselves up by 3 in the final seconds, and then Darian Williams hit a 3 with 9.7 left to tie the score, got it to overtime. Then Texas Tech outscored Arkansas 13-11 to win 85-83. John Calipari's first season in Fayetteville ends with a trip to the Sweet 16, but it should have been a trip to the Elite Eight at least if they had just held on. What'd you make of the Razorbacks squandering a blessed opportunity last night against, again, a shorthanded Texas Tech team?
You know, it felt like deja vu a little bit. I believe, I want to say that because I went back and looked actually, obviously the famous Chalmers for the tie that we talk about, you know, a couple times a year, right? That I believe there was like 10.5 seconds on the clock or something like that when Kansas inbounded the ball. So it was very similar. It was a very similar situation as far as do you foul, do you not foul, that we were asking, you know, that we ask all the time about that game. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, if I'm being honest. I lean more towards no, if I'm being honest. And I know that goes counter to what Memphis fans have said, what people say about that in general. I'm not for giving teams free points. Like, play good defense, you know?
I am a believer in foul up 3. I am not a believer that Arkansas messed up last night by not fouling up 3. I think sometimes people talk about this in a way that doesn't take into account the clock.
Right.
And the clock is a very important aspect of this. What every coach has told me, or at least most of the coaches I've had detailed conversations about the foul up 3 approach, what they have mostly told me over the years is that if you do it before 5 or 6 seconds is left, you're leaving too much time on the clock, and you're probably just going to have to go through this all again. In other words, if Arkansas would have, because Darren Williams took the shot with a little more than 10 seconds left. It went through with 9.7. If you were going to foul him up 3 before the act of shooting, you would have probably had to do it with about 12, 11 seconds left, somewhere in there. But let me tell you what happens in that situation. It's not the traditional foul up 3 situation that you're used to watching that you think you're creating. Because if you foul with 11 seconds left, Texas Tech's down 3, Grant McCaslin's going to tell Darian Williams to go to the free throw line and do what? Make them both. Mm-hmm. Don't make one, miss one. Let's just make them both.
No, we got time to play it out.
Now we're going to make them both. It's a 1-point game. They're going to inbound. We're going to try to steal, and we're going to try to steal. If we can't steal, we're going to try to trap, turn it over. If we can't steal or trap and turn it over, now we're going to foul, stop the clock again. Let's say we've now got 9 seconds left, 8 seconds left. Let's call it 8. Now they're going to the other end. They need to make 2 to even get back to a situation where they can foul up 3. Mm-hmm. If we've made our 2, then they've got to make 2 just to get it back to foul up 3. There's so many variables involved if you foul too early that it is not the smart thing to do. So 2008 national championship game, that clock was ticking down. That clock got under 6, and Memphis was in a position to foul if it wanted to, and for whatever reason, either didn't want to or didn't execute it, depending on who you believe. But last night, the only way to, quote, foul up 3, keep in mind, by definition, Texas Tech didn't have the ball anymore with 10 seconds left. It was in the air headed. So you had to foul before that. And if you foul before that, you're just extending the game. Mm-hmm. You're drawing it out in a way that doesn't actually create the foul up 3 scenario that so many people were screaming about last night. So mistake in 2008, I don't think it was a mistake last night. And one of the reasons Darian Williams shot the ball early is because of the foul up 3 approach. Like, all of this stuff is connected, because you know what coaches are now teaching in practices in late game situations? If we are down 3 and we think we could find ourselves in a foul up 3 situation in the final seconds, we know that the other team doesn't want to foul us early, but will want to foul us late. So what are we going to do? You ready for this? Shoot early.
Yeah.
Let's shoot early. You see people willing to take shots from 5 feet behind the three-point line to get a clean look, and you see them willing to shoot early so that they aren't in a position where the other team is even thinking about fouling them now. That defender in that moment is in his head thinking, don't foul, too early, don't foul, don't foul. I know he's not fouling me. Let's get this shot up now. If I wait another 4 seconds to try to get this shot up, well, then they're just going to foul me and send me to the free throw line. But right now, I can get a clean look. So let's take the clean look. Like, all of it's connected. I didn't think that was a mistake by John last night. Elsewhere in the sport, Alabama.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the egregious thing to me was leaving the timeout on the table in overtime, because when Darian Williams hits that shot, there's still 7 seconds left on the clock. Like, you have time to draw something up with 7 seconds, even if you got to go full court. Like, I would have called a timeout there. Yeah.
I do think that's one where John messed up.
Yeah.
And the way he explained it afterwards is, we're going to take the ball out of the net and we're going to go. We're downhill. I've got the ball in an athlete's hands, and I'm just going to let that play out, as opposed to call the timeout. Now I got to worry about what they're going to do. They're trying to figure out what we're going to do. We're allowing them to get the proper people in the game when otherwise they couldn't make any substitutions, and I'm just going to let that play out. I agree with that sentiment, all of it. I agree with all that. There is a moment, though, where as the coach, you got to, in split seconds, see what's happening. There was a game this regular season involving Michigan where Matt Norland and I talked about this at length after it happened. Very similar situation. Michigan is going to just let it play out. Dusty May's letting the game play out in the final seconds. Same type of thing. We're going the other way, full court. You could call a timeout and set something up, or let it play out. He was letting it play out. But then his player got into an awkward situation, a lot like DJ Wagner got into last night, and he recognized, this is not playing out the way I need to. Yeah. Timeout, timeout, timeout. In other words, what Dusty did was, I would prefer to let this play out. But if it's not playing out the right way and I can get a timeout with 3 or 2 seconds left, I'm going to use it then. I'm going to give my players an opportunity to end this here. But if I see it getting uncomfortable for them, that's when I'm going to step in and call this timeout, and now we'll reset. John just chose not to even try to reset. And I think that was a mistake. Dusty nailed that moment in that regular season game. I want to let it play out, but if I don't see what I like, we're calling the timeout. John said, I want to let it play out. Couldn't have possibly seen what he liked, but still let it play out. And they got up an awkward, bad shot at the buzzer, and Texas Tech advances. Arkansas's done. So if you want to criticize John Calipari for last night, that's where to do it. End of overtime, not end of regulation.
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m.